Number 5. Okay, we're at the top 5 now. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty. Number 5 is Devil from Tekken 2. Oh my god. I totally got how Katakris was explaining how Devil felt when he got to that boss. Because Kazuya is hard enough, you know, he's actually pretty challenging. Of course, they actually decided to dumb down his difficulty because Heihachi from Tekken 1 was fuck. But Kazuya in Tekken 2 is not that bad. It does take a while to get used to him because he is pretty freaking difficult, but once he's done, you're not done, because then he transforms into the devil. And the atmosphere of it, and just because they don't explain much, so you have to be like, well, he's got superpowers, you know, he's got powers, so we know that much, you know, story-wise, because this is before dialogue and cutscenes ever happened to Tekken. That didn't start till Tekken 4, so all the assumptions you had to make, and if you didn't read the story in the manual, you know, in the instruction manual, like I didn't, you'd have to just be like, oh shit, this is happening now. What? So it was pretty I was never afraid by him, but it was pretty intimidating, you know, because of the music, because of the infinity mirror, the fact that besides the infinity mirror, it's just darkness all around, and then the floor. So the atmosphere, with very little, the atmosphere has a lot to it, and that's what's really cool about this boss fight. That's what makes it badass. Besides the fact that he has fucking eye forehead laser, which had that sound, which I now again never got scared by the sound. I actually kind of thought it was like a cool sound, but that, like, you know, bad things are going down once you hear that, and it does the animation of it. So it's a really awesome fight, though. I mean, in terms of Tekken final boss battles, there are some other ones that get fucking crazy later in the other games, but this one, being the Tekken 2 being the first Tekken I've ever played, and back when I was freaking really little, it was pretty crazy. It was intense. So yeah, that's why he's at number 5. Number 4. Number 4 is really badass. The Pirate Master from Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. Yeah, he's got like what, 4 parts to him. It's pretty crazy. They always freaked me out. I was always like, okay, I think we're done. And then his other form would take place. I'm like, okay, oh god, okay, now we're doing this. And then I defeat him. Okay, I think he's done. And then it's like his head is just floating there, and I'm like, oh god, shit. Okay, are we done now? Because so it's like 3 or 4 segments to this guy, but they always build him up in this game. You never see him. You hear his dialogue. That's the first thing of the game, I believe, when you first start a new game. It starts on the little lonely island of his 3D-esque flag. Yeah, this is my flag flapping impression. You see his flag and you just hear you read his dialogue. And besides that, though, Risky Boots is always mentioning the Pirate Master, and he's coming back, and his powers are returning, and holy shit. And of course she doesn't say that, but she's talking him up a lot, like, he's bad news, we need to stop him before he even rises, you know. And of course he rises by the end of the game, so he just looks like purple stuff when you first see him near the end of the game. And then what I never knew about Risky, now this carries over to Risky's design, which is actually really cool and really neat thinking. Her breastplate, I guess, and her crotch plate, I guess, the skullish areas on her are actually the face of the Pirate Master. Now, why she decided to do that, I don't know. That's kind of weird, actually. But you would think, oh, it's just part of her design. She is a pirate, you know, the skull and crossbones, so having a skull breastplate and whatnot makes sense. Well, she didn't just get that out of nowhere. It's the face of her rival. So that's actually pretty clever in hindsight. But again, it's a little weird because it's like, why are you wearing the face of your rival or your GGs? But anyway, he's a badass boss. That last sentence is funny to me. I don't know. I'm an idiot. But 4 segments. It's really crazy. Again, like Drek, having to platform your way over to this guy because he resides at the very, very top of like that Monument Castle. What was it? It's a castle, I think? It's been a while, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to remember now what it is. It's like a castle or something. Like Town Hall or something like that. I'm not remembering clearly right now. But there's this room. You can go over to this area, like, when you first get to this part in the game. He eventually takes over Scuttletown, and he resides at the very top of this of Town Hall. I think it's Town Hall. I'm just gonna call it Town Hall. If it's not Town Hall, whatever. And you can go into this part of the building as early as you first get to there in the game. But you can't do anything on that particular screen because there's just seemingly nothing. Well, once you have all the pirate gear and all that, and then you finally go back to that place, you can mosey your way up you'll blast your way up with the cannon. Then from there, you're just trekking upwards and then off to certain little areas to platform your way, and you have to keep climbing up, and then you fight them up there. So you know it's going to be crazy when you're finally done with. Now that platforming stuff is pretty difficult. You have to use all the power-ups that you've earned, all the pirate gear that you've earned, and it's a good challenge. I actually like the precursor to the fight. I know I'm supposed to be talking about the fight, which I will, but the precursor to the fight, now in this sense, is really well done. It felt kind of cheap, to be honest, in Ratchet & Clank, having all those fucking enemies and those fucking tanks, but in Shantae, you use, they have you use everything that you've learned, use all the weapons the way they have to be, and in a very precise manner, and then you get to the, once you're done with all that, there's just this stretch of walkway, and they've got a bunch of vases with big hearts. Now, you rarely see big hearts in the game, but they're like in spades here. They want to make sure that you're at full health because he's pretty tough. Now, with that segue back into the boss fight, it starts off very simple with him just being there. He's way taller than you. You have to just recognize his patterns, go ahead and attack him. Then he grows huge, and again, I'm not going to describe the whole fight, but he grows huge. You have to beat him like that. Then you get your 11th hour superpower once you find out that all the spoilers, I guess, that all of the darkness stuff. This is my impression of the darkness stuffs that you have to collect from the Cacklebats throughout the entire game is actually Shantae's magic, because in the story from the last game, her magic got taken from her, so she's not a half genie, she is just a regular human, and then all the dark magic is, again, dark magic, is actually her magic, but just turned dark. So she gets her magic back, and it makes her 11th hour superpower Shantae, and with that being said, you defeat him again, then it becomes just this giant ass floating head, and then you beat him again, and there's that. So, you can't get to those stages of the fight though until you've collected all the Cacklebats, because you have to have that 11th hour superpower in order for the actual true boss fight to take place. Because you can defeat him as just him, you know, the first stage of his fight, but it's gonna take, you know, well, not that it's gonna take a while. It's going to go by fast, actually, you know, opposite of that, and not a whole lot happens. It's not a true ending. The true ending comes when once you collect all the Cacklebats and then go through the other stages of him. Pirate Master, number, what was it? 4, I think? Number whatever it was. Number 3. All the Bowser fights, to an extent, are actually pretty cool, even Mario 64's, I will admit that. But what makes number 3 is the fight between Bowser and Super Mario Galaxy, the first one, because, god damn, I love the soundtrack. Like I said before, Mario Galaxy's soundtrack is amazing, and this Bowser boss fight music is like the most intense music I've ever heard in a mainline platforming Mario game. Holy shit. That's what makes the atmosphere so amazing right off the bat, if not for the designs of the planets, which are simple, yet really cool. And Bowser's attacks, I think it's in this one, I hope I'm not thinking of the Galaxy 2, I think it is Galaxy 1, where Bowser even adopts some of Mario's powers of like spinning all that shit, spinning after you, and also turning into those little rock formation things that you've seen in a bunch of other planets previous to this fight, prior to this fight. And having to hop from planet to planet every so often after hitting them a couple of times is really cool, and God, it's an amazing fight, especially when the choir kicks in. The music itself is really cool, but once like you have Bowser hurt himself and go running around in circles, the choir kicks in and oh God, it's amazing. So I don't know what else to say. It's really, since it's in space, you know, honestly there could have been more if I really had to critique the fight. There could have been more that they could have done with it in terms of like floating around, whacking shit at him, which they do in the second game. So to an extent, even that part goes by a little fast in that game, but with this fight, it's awesome, it's really cool, and it's definitely one of my favorites out of all the Bowser boss fights I've ever played. So yeah, number 3. Number 2. Number 2 is a pretty cool one. So number 2 and number 1, I had to figure out how I was going to do this. So number 1, we'll get there when we get there. Number 2 is Cinder from Legend of Spyro: A New Beginning, because of the implications prior, the implications during the fight, and the implications after, especially the implications after. The implications before the fight are like the Pirate Master from Shantae. You only ever hear of Cinder. If you ever see Cinder, first off, you don't even know that Cinder's a female dragon. You only ever hear until like Ignitus drops the she's and hers, you know, in his dialogue when he references her. But at first, when you just hear the name Cinder, you're like, oh shit, okay. And in the drawn concept art looking cutscenes, she's always drenched in shadow. So you never see Cinder. All you know is that she's a big black dragon, because that's how Ignitus kind of describes her. And it's really cool that, again, it's really cool that you never see much of her, and you only kind of hear, you know, everyone talks her up as like, holy shit, she's bad news, dude. And even Sparks is like, I think we should leave, we should get out of here and not have to face this giant creature. And then during the fight, you know, after you've already seen her and all that, during the fight, it's a pretty crazy fight. I don't remember it a whole lot, to be honest. But there is an 11th hour superpower involved, and all I remember was she was fast. Because at times, if she's off flying around the arena, and you have to use the little shots, you know, the projectile shots to hit her, she's on the ground and like running towards you, and she's pretty freaking fast, and in 3D space, if the camera's not on her, she's still going to run up towards you. So sometimes she can kind of freak you out like that. If you're running around, but you don't have her in view of the camera, and she's like behind you or to the side of you, she goes, woof! And it's like right here beside you, you're like, oh shit! So that can happen. And, I don't know. But the fight itself, because she'll just go like, pwah! And like smack it. So maybe this is more memorable than I thought it was. I'm remembering more than I thought I was going to while talking about this. But she'll like whap you with her claws, and you just gotta dodge the attacks, attack her back. She'll take flight again, and because you have to like shoot her down. Not so much that she falls down to the ground, but you have to shoot her out of the sky so she'll land and get pissed at you, and then go and attack you. Then you just gotta dodge her shit and attack her back. And then that 11th hour superpower happens, and you send like dragon blasts or something. What were they, like dragon heads? Or because it's like the metaphorical, like, I'm the true dragon, I'm the dragon I know I can be, so I'm blasting dragon shit at you. Like, I'm not sure what, I don't remember what the projectiles were. I'm not even sure if it's a breath or not, I forgot. I think it is a breath, but you have to like blast her with like this sonic ass shit as she's trying to do the same thing to you. It gets really intense, is what I'm trying to get at. It gets intense, but it's really cool. And the implications after the fight is that you find out through the cutscene, once you beat her, that she's being controlled by a higher-up, by, I believe it's called the Dark Master. So, once that happens, she returns back to her normal state, because she's not technically a big black dragon. That just happened with the powers that she was given. She's a small dragon like Spyro. So he realizes that and goes, oh shit, she's been a puppet this entire time. I need to save her. And the second game, The Eternal Night, picks up right after the ending of this game. But it shows throughout the trilogy that they become friends, and then, you know, she knows more about everything that's going on than she lets on, you know, even when she's already good and back to being small. But to see there's actual character development in these Spyro games, not that I'm bashing the other ones for not really having it, but it's cool to see that these Spyro games have such in-depth and pretty good character development. So she's a boss in the first game, and she's the big bad of the first game, and then once you find out that she was just being controlled, she's actually just a little dragon. So they become friends, and then that blossoms into something more later. So, but it's cool. There's a progression there. She's not just like a one-off throwaway villain. She's a pretty crucial character to the entire trilogy, the entire little reboot series. So that's really cool. But the fight itself, getting back to the fight, sorry guys. Getting back to, thank you for the 100 subscribers. Going back to the fight, she's cool. She's cool to face. She's threatening. She can freak you out if the camera's not adjusted to her right. So it's cool. That's why she's at number 2. I always have to do this. I don't know why. And my number 1 badass final boss battle is it was predictable. The number 1, I was trying to find someone besides him, but he was my first boss ever, and it was a neat setup. Again, not very story-driven per se. The basic story was there, so it wasn't like in-depth, for what it was worth, but the Cortex boss fight from Crash 1 is always going to be the one that I remember the most. If you ever tell me what boss battle do you remember from your childhood, this one first and foremost, because God, the setting, the implications, the fact that it's creator versus creation, and then Crash actually ventured all the way back through the islands to save his girlfriend and kick Cortex's ass. The fact that it was stated that Crash is the one that set the island on fire, but in the background. So that's crazy. But this fight is really cool because it's an easy fight. Don't get me wrong. It's easy once you get the hang of his attack patterns and all that. It's not difficult in the slightest. Just make sure you don't get hit by the blasts, and that's pretty much it. So it's easy, but it's cool. It's cool aesthetically. It's cool story-wise, and it's just the most memorable to me. I'm not choking up. I'm coughing. Sorry. It's the most memorable to me, and I actually put Cortex on number 2 in the original list, and I was trying to find a good, more in-depth number 1, but I couldn't. That's really weird. From all these other boss battles, they're all memorable in their own ways. Even if some of them I said weren't so memorable, they are still memorable to me. But this one just has to take the cake. It's the first, Crash is the first game I ever played, Cortex is the first boss I've ever faced, and with that being said, that would kind of have to imprint itself into your mind. So it is really cool for what it's worth. It's not underwhelming, not so much. If the difficulty was kicked up a bit, then hey, more power to the fight. It would make it all the more worthwhile. Not that it's not now, but it would add a little more if it was a little more difficult, but that's like the smallest critique I'll ever give this boss fight. It's a really good boss fight, and I don't know what else to say. I think if you want to talk underwhelming Cortex boss fights, everyone says that Crash 2's Cortex boss fight is a little underwhelming. It kind of is, I have to kind of admit. Even Crash 3's boss fight is really cool. But that one could have been number 1, but this one has to be number 1 because it's the first. It's the one that started everything for me in terms of the final boss battles. That and Devil from Tekken 2. But Cortex was a really awesome fight, to have. It did blow my mind as a kid. That I was like, oh god, the setting, the fact that we finally made it through slippery climb, through all these other difficult levels, and now we're here and we're gonna face Cortex. The fact that the level prior to this, but not even the lab, but like the Great Hall was there too, to have like the alternate ending if you've gotten all the gems. There's that as well, which is pretty funny. Because you never even have to face Cortex if you do the alternate ending, but then they'll do like a where are they now kind of scenario. But the actual Cortex fight itself is really cool, really memorable. The setting is crazy. Again, we're gonna find a way to make it, all come full circle. Like the Black Power Jewel, the Black Jewel from Wario World. It's a more sunset-looking, darkish, dark cloud setting, and there's fire involved in both boss fights in some way or another, be it directly in the fight or not. And it's just really cool. So it's always going to be my #1 final badass boss battle gaming memory. So Cortex makes the #1. And we finally did it. It took 4 damn years to get this list out, but it's finally here. And for you guys for this special occasion. What do you guys think of these boss fights? Have you played these boss fights? I know some of you have to have played some of these boss fights. I know my audience. Have you guys played these boss fights? And what do you guys think of them? Would you take some of these guys that I've mentioned and rearrange them into your own list? How would you guys arrange this list? Let me know. You know, again, let's chat. We need more people to chat. We gotta get some more subscribers in here so that way we can have awesome times, awesome fun times. And once more, I'm gonna say it. I took it all gushy, you know, mushy gushy, but I'm just gonna say that I love you guys. It's awesome. It's amazing to have all these guys here to talk to and to Skype with and to respond to you guys in the comments. So it's really awesome. 100. Hopefully we go up to 200, 300, 400, and onward, and we have, you know, more attention gathered with the channel and with the videos and with everything else, and we build up a community. That's kind of what I've been wanting to do with this channel. So, with that being said, top 10 badass final boss battles list complete. Gerard, the completionist. I'm Marcelo. I'm gonna shut up. I'll see you guys later. Take care. I'm gonna walk off now. I don't know.